Welcome friends, I am saptaparni from BioLive. Today we are going to learn about the circulatory system of Class 10 ICSE board. Okay. So if you want to check out my other videos, you may get the link in the description box below, or you may also check the I button above. Okay. And you can also follow my Facebook page BioLive Zoophilit, and you can also follow me on Instagram saptaparni BioLive. So let's begin. See, what does the word circulatory system means? Circulatory system contains some kind of fluids which are always circulating through our body. Okay, those are the dynamic fluids of our body. And those fluids like blood, lymph actually act as pickup system and the delivery system. That means they can pick up some substances from your tissues of your body, and they can also deliver other substances to your tissues. So, as the fluids are circulating and accomplishing their work of picking up and distributing things throughout your body, so the system is known as the circulatory system. Now, what are the fluids that can be circulated through your body? The fluids are mainly the blood and lymph. Now, what are the main functions of the circulatory system? The main function of the circulatory system is to transport something. So, the main function of the circulatory system is transportation. Okay. So, what are the materials that those are transported by the circulatory systems? Number one is nutrition. Whenever you are intaking any food, the complex food gets digested in your alimentary canal and gets converted into simpler food molecules. Okay, and then your cells absorb that simpler portion of your food. Then that food molecules or those nutrients must be sent to all over your body tissue so that those nutrients can be taken part in the cellular respiration and form the ATP, okay, or the energy. So the first function of the circulatory system is to transport the nutrients all over your body. The second function of the circulatory system is to transport the respiratory materials. So the transportation of respiratory materials. What are the respiratory materials? The respiratory materials are oxygen and carbon dioxide, okay. You uptake oxygen from the atmospheric air through your lungs, and from the lungs that oxygen is carried through your blood to all over your tissues, and from tissues the carbon dioxide is carried towards your heart and then to your lungs by the blood. Okay. Now the third point is the transportation of excretory materials. What are the excretory materials? Excretory materials means excess water, nitrogenous waste like urea, ammonia, then the excess salts. Those are not required for your body, but produced by your tissues can be excreted out by the circulatory system, okay, by the blood, through the kidney, skin, liver, etc. Now, the fourth point is transportation of hormones. We know that hormones are produced in some endocrine organs of your body, which are distantly located from their target sites. And from those endocrine organs, the hormones are poured into the blood system directly, and then the blood carries the hormones to its target organ. So the main function of the circulatory system is to transport these four things. Okay. Now, coming to the transporting the circulatory material or the circulatory medium of our body, the blood and lymph. There is also another circulatory fluid that is known as the tissue fluid. So, the three circulatory fluids of our body are blood, lymph and tissue fluid. See, blood, you will find blood in the heart and the blood vessels. Okay, see, here it is the heart, and these red and blue structures are the blood vessels. Red structure, the red vessels are carrying the oxygenated blood. Okay, oxygenated blood means the blood where the amount of oxygen is more than the amount of carbon dioxide. Okay. And the deoxygenated blood means where the amount of oxygen is lesser than other blood vessels. Okay. That is why we have drawn the oxygenated blood vessels or the oxygenated blood in bright red color, the red color, and the deoxygenated blood carrying vessels in the blue color. Okay. But that does not mean the blood can be of red color and blue color. Actually, blood is always of red color. The arterial blood, which is more oxygenated, is mainly the bright red color, and the venous blood, which is less oxygenated, is of the dark red color. But here you cannot distinguish between dark and bright red color. That is why we have drawn it in red and blue color. Okay. Now remember one thing, that always the arteries carries away the blood from the heart. Okay. See here, from heart you can find two arteries. Here it is the systemic artery or SA, which is carrying away blood. Okay. And here it is the pulmonary artery or PA, which is carrying away heart towards the lungs. So artery means those blood vessels which always carries away blood from the heart, and veins means those blood vessels which always carries blood towards the heart. See, here systemic blood vessels carries blood towards the heart. Here pulmonary blood vessels also carries blood from lungs towards the heart. Now in general, we say that the arterial blood vessels actually contains the oxygenated blood, and we draw that in red. See here, the arterial blood vessels carrying more oxygenated blood, and we are drawing it in red, and the venous blood vessels or the veins actually carries deoxygenated blood, and we are drawing it in blue color. But there are some exceptions. Okay. See here, it is pulmonary artery, but it is not carrying oxygenated blood. It is carrying deoxygenated blood towards the lungs. That is why it is known as it is carrying blood away from the heart. It is known as artery. But as it is carrying deoxygenated blood, that is why we have drawn it in blue color. Okay. So this is one exception. And similarly, the pulmonary vein. It is called vein because it is carrying blood towards the heart. But it is drawn in red because it carries oxygenated blood. Okay. So despite of being a vein, it carries oxygenated blood, and despite of being an artery, it carries deoxygenated blood. So these are the two exceptions. Okay. Now, in human body, you will find closed type of circulatory system. That means when blood, closed type of circulatory system means when blood only flows through some kind of tubes or closed structures like blood, like the heart or the blood vessels. In human body, you will find that blood is always flowing, but flowing only through heart and blood vessels. That means the blood vessels means the artery, veins and capillaries. But in case of insect bodies, you will find that the blood is flowing through heart and also through the body space or hemocoel. That means blood is not always flowing through any kind of tube-like structure. That is why the insect have open type of circulatory system. Okay. Now coming to the lymph. See, lymph is another circulatory material or circulatory media of our body. The lymph is yellow in color, and it consists of, it flows through the lymphatic ducts or lymphatic vessels, lymphatic capillaries, and also through the lymphatic nodes and lymphatic organs like the tonsils, spleen, etc. Here in this figure, we have drawn the lymphatic ducts and lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic duct in green color. Okay, see here, this is the lymphatic capillary, this is the lymphatic duct, the green one, and these black ones are the lymphatic nodes. Okay, and lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic ducts carrying blood towards the heart. Okay, and it is drawn in green color. Now, tissue fluid. What is the tissue fluid? Tissue fluid is one kind of fluid which is, we will find it between the adjacent cells. Okay, between the adjacent cells there are some gaps, and in gaps you will find the tissue fluid. See here, this is the tissue fluid, okay, between the adjacencies in the gap. So these three, blood, lymph and tissue fluids, are the circulatory media or circulatory fluids of our body. But along with these circulatory fluids, you will also find some kind of non-circulatory fluids in your body, and those fluids are, for example, the non-circulatory fluids are, number 1, synovial fluid. Synovial fluid. It is one kind of non-circulatory fluid. Okay. Non-circulatory fluid. So, where do you find the synovial fluid? See, if this is a bone and this is another bone, the end of another bone, there is always a gap between these two bones. There is a gap between these two bones, and inside this gap, okay, you will find the synovial fluid. The synovial fluid is static. It actually acts as a shock absorber, okay, so that it could prevent any kind of collision between the two bones, okay. Now, the second type of non-circulatory fluid is vitreous humor. Vitreous humor. It is another type of non-circulatory fluid. Where will you find vitreous humor? Vitreous humor is found in your eyeball, the posterior chamber of your eyeball behind the lens. Okay. So these are the non-circulatory fluids. Now, coming to the structures or constituents of your blood. Okay. So, in your body, we actually contain 5 to 6 liters of blood. And blood is actually alkaline in nature, and pH is about 7.3 to 7.45. And it is salty, okay. And blood is always red. Always remember, oxygenated blood is actually the bright red in color, and the venous blood, the deoxygenated blood, is dark red in color, okay. So, blood is always dynamic. Now, what are the main constituents of a blood? The blood constitute plasma and cellular materials, cellular components, okay. Plasma consists of almost 55 to 60% of your blood, whereas the cellular components constitute 45 to 40% of your blood. Plasma is the liquid portion of your blood, okay. Plasma contains as it is the liquid portion, obviously it will contain a whole lot of water. It contains almost 90 to 92% of water, 7 to 8% of proteins, 1% of inorganic salts like NaCl, sodium bicarbonate, and trace amount of other materials like fibrinogen, glucose, amino acid, hormones, etc. etc. Okay. If you extract the fibrinogen, the clotting material of your plasma, then that plasma is known as serum. So what is serum? When you extract fibrinogen from your plasma, then that plasma is known as serum. Okay. So now coming to the cellular components of your blood. The cellular component of your blood constitutes some corpuscles. Okay. What are those corpuscles? RBC or erythrocyte or red blood cells, then WBC or white blood cells or leukocytes, and platelets. Okay, platelets or thrombocytes. Today we will only learn about RBC or the red blood cells. Okay. So before that, we need to know the function of blood. See, the main function of blood is to transport something. Okay. We have already seen that our circulatory system can transport many types of materials. Like that, blood can also transport nutrients, hormones, oxygen, carbon dioxide, that means the respiratory materials, excretory materials, and also the heat. And by supplying the heat, it or a uniform temperature all over your body. Okay. Now, how does the blood transport oxygen and carbon dioxide? We will learn later. Now, coming to the RBC. Okay. Another function of blood is to protect your body from any kind of disease or germs. Okay. How does the blood protect your body? First of all, see, whenever there is any cut in your body, you will find a clot there. Okay. The clot has mainly two functions. First of all, it prevents it stops the leakage of excess blood from the cut portion, and it also prevents the entry of any other foreign materials or the germ cells inside your blood vessels. Second point is, whenever any foreign body like bacteria, viruses attacks your body, the white blood cells of your blood can engulf them or phagocytosize them and kill them. Okay, and whenever they cannot engulf them, they can secrete antibody or antitoxins which can neutralize the toxins produced by those bacteria or viruses. Okay, and in this way, your blood can protect you from so many germs. Now, coming to the RBC. RBC or red blood cell. So, how does a RBC look like? See, RBC looks like a biconcave disc. Okay, that means it looks like this, which have concavity on its both sides. Why does the RBC look like this? See, when a RBC is forming, okay, a young RBC contains nucleus. So, then the RBC looks like this. As the young RBC contains nucleus, in the middle portion, it looks like this. But when it gets matured, the nucleus is absorbed or disintegrated, and in the middle portion, you will find concavities, and this structure of RBC is known as biconcave structure. Okay. Another thing is that the diameter of RBC is very small. The diameter is only of about 7 micron. So the size of RBC is very small. These two things, the biconcavity and the small diameter or the small size, has a very important role in its functional aspect. Why? See, as it is biconcave in structure, it has a large surface area, and this surface area can provide a good space for accommodating more amount of oxygen. Okay, so the biconcavity gives the RBC the capacity to carry more oxygen to your tissues. Okay. And another thing is that the small size of RBC helps the RBC to travel or to squeeze through very fine capillaries of your body. Okay. So these 2 points, the small size and biconcavity, are the main functional aspects or the main functional basics of your RBC. Now, in an adult human body, actually there are 5 million adult male human body, there are 5 million RBCs in 1 cubic millimeter of blood. Okay, and in case of female, there are 4.5 million. When you were infant, there were more RBCs, like 6 millions. When you sleep, then the RBC count decreases, and when you are in physical stress or in emotional stress, then the RBC count increases. But when it increases above a certain level and it can cause disease, that condition is known as polycythemia. And when it decreases above a certain level and can cause disease, that condition is known as erythropia. People living in the higher altitude above the 4200 meter, the RBC count of those higher altitude living people are 30% more than the people living in the plain region. Okay, that is because in the higher altitude there are less amount of atmospheric oxygen. The oxygen pressure is low. Okay, that is why they need to their tissues to run their normal physiological functions. That is why the RBC count is more in case of people in the higher altitude. Now coming to those are the basics of RBC, the structures and the basic facts about the RBC. Now coming to the respiratory pigment contained by the RBC. The respiratory pigment that is contained by the RBC is known as hemoglobin. Okay, we can write it as HB, hemoglobin. Hemoglobin constitute an iron containing portion known as heme, and it also contain a protein portion known as globin. Okay, so the hemoglobin is formed of heme and globin. Now, what are the functions of this hemoglobin? See, hemoglobin can readily bind with the oxygen and can form oxyhemoglobin. Okay, hemoglobin can bind with oxygen and can form oxyhemoglobin. This oxyhemoglobin is a very unstable structure, and blood can carry this oxyhemoglobin to its respiring tissues and can liberate the oxygen from it. Okay, and that is how oxygen is carried and liberated to the respiring tissues. Now, hemoglobin has also some kind of affinity towards carbon dioxide. It can also form carbaminohemoglobin, carbon dioxide plus hemoglobin, known as carbaminohemoglobin, and also can carry the carbon dioxide from respiring tissues to the lungs. Okay, but hemoglobin has a very high affinity towards carbon monoxide, and it can form a very stable structure known as carboxyhemoglobin when it binds with the carbon monoxide. So, let's write here the hemoglobin plus carbon monoxide CO forms the carboxyhemoglobin. Okay, and this carboxyhemoglobin is a very stable structure, and when hemoglobin, all of your hemoglobin gets saturated by the carbon monoxide, so there will be very less hemoglobin left to be saturated with the oxygen, and that condition, that carbon monoxide poisoning, may lower the capacity of your hemoglobin to bind with the oxygen. As a result, your tissue cannot get the oxygen and cannot do their cellular respiration, and as a result, death may also occur. So, carbon monoxide poisoning is very fatal for our body. Okay, so these are the transportation function of hemoglobin. Now coming to some other facts about hemoglobin. See, whenever we draw the arterial blood, we draw it in red and we say that those are the oxygenated blood. But does that mean the venous blood, the deoxygenated blood, does not contain any kind of oxygen? That is not true. See, when hemoglobin takes up the oxygen from your lungs, almost 95 to 99% of hemoglobin gets saturated with oxygen, and that 99% of saturated hemoglobin goes through your arterial blood vessels. Okay, and in your tissues they supply almost 23% of oxygen. So in your venous blood, 75% of hemoglobin is already oxygenated. That means we call the venous blood deoxygenated because it contains less amount of oxygen than the arterial blood. But that does not mean the venous blood does not contain any kind of oxygen. Okay, so make this clear in your mind. Okay, now coming to the life cycle of a RBC. See, the lifespan of a RBC is almost of about 120 days. When you are children, when you are in fetus, okay, then your RBC is formed in your liver and spleen. In infant stage, all of your bones. Okay, the bone marrow of only few long bones like the ilium, then the rib bones, bones of the ribs. Okay, they can only form the RBC. And when the RBC gets older or weaker, then the RBC is transported to the liver and spleen and gets broken down into its protein portion and the iron containing portion. The iron containing portion is written, but the other portion is liberated as bilirubin, okay, through your bile. So these are the basic facts about the RBC. In our next video, we will learn about the WBC and platelets. So please stay tuned and please like, share and subscribe to my channel to stay updated. Thanks for watching and happy learning.